Inclusion in rugby. Can we do more? It's a very broad question. It immediately poses more questions like, what do you mean by inclusion? Do you mean women, minorities, fans? And to those questions I just want to talk about all of them. I've loved the game since I was about 2 years old, and this game has brought me the biggest highs and lows in my life, which in hindsight, I wouldn't have any other way. It gave me a base set of values as a young boy, with fair play and respect being very much championed during my time in the minis and juniors. Shaking hands with everyone after the game and congratulating your opponents on their victory against you, with the opposition being expected to do the same if the situation were reversed. With the biggest hero of the game when I was growing up being a shy fly half who if you ran at him would send you into next week, who also just let his rugby do his talking. This game was everything to me, to the point that during the week as a young man I would count down the days till Sunday when I got to see my friends and play the game I love. But it does sadden me that my life could have been so different had a series of very fortunate events not happened in my upbringing. I am from Wembley. I was born in Wembley, grew up in Wembley, went to school in Wembley. Now the area isn't nowadays exactly famous for its rugby union, but back in the 90s a club you may have heard of called London Wasps were based in Sudbury, a 10-minute walk from my house, and that's where my dad used to take me every Saturday when he would play. Even when it wasn't a match and he was just training, I wanted to go with him. I would just go off and kick a ball by myself. One of my first memories is a day where I was kicking a ball with my dad and I first managed to get it over the bar. It just sneaked over in the corner. It was tremendous. But the point of telling you this story, besides bragging about how powerful my 2-year-old quads were, is that a kid from where I'm from probably would never have heard of rugby at that age. A sport that's main selling point to young kids is no matter what body shape you are, in rugby there's a position for you. There is a role that is specifically designed for you. This, in my opinion, is a real shame. Rugby should be the most inclusive sport in the world. Despite all the unnecessarily complicated rules, at its core it's a sport about inclusion. Tall, short, big, small, channeled in the right direction, you can do anything in this game. I believe it needs to be pushed more towards kids growing up in areas like I grew up in, where you can easily be put on the wrong track. I was a very emotional kid, but rugby mellowed me out and gave me an outlet to let out my frustration, and is still a massive release for me as an adult. I feel like this game needs to be a road for young people to channel their enthusiasm, anger, or sadness, in the same way that boxing does for kids, teaching them life lessons along the way in terms of discipline, and with the added bonus of teamwork and the camaraderie that comes with it, which, if we're honest, is the real reason people keep watching and playing the game. And if you're thinking rugby needs too much equipment and has too many rules to be a truly popular sport amongst the working class, in Fiji, 45% of the country live under the poverty line, yet rugby is the national sport. Why? Because they play Fiji Touch, a version of the game where if you're touched with the ball, it's a turnover, which in turn has made the country's base level skills of offloading outstanding, as the kids grow up playing this constantly with anything they can find, bottles, rocks, anything. Similar to how a lot of school kids when I grew up played football with a tennis ball. It's not about where you come from or how well off you are. When the game is known about, it can be adored by everyone and inclusive to everyone. This goes for both men's and women's rugby. I was recently coaching at the under-10s level and there were only 2 girls there. One of them was one of the team's star players, but in 2 seasons the boys and girls get split up, and the 2 girls will either have to find a new club or join a higher age group to continue playing the game at their club, which just doesn't seem right. It shouldn't be this fucking hard to get into this sport. Like, I was so proud to see them there despite how outnumbered they are. Now, I am in no way saying that nothing is being done to help in any of these situations that I've mentioned, but if you ask me, can more be done? Yeah. A lot more. But it's not just about the powers that be changing the status quo, it's also about us people doing more as a collective to make sure that the immense potential that is in this tiny little country doesn't go to waste. We need to get the conversation started about making this great game that we all love less of a closed circle in this country and make it a sport for everyone, while still valuing the principles of respect and sportsmanship. Signed, NG.